Hello, and welcome to the Compassion Fatigue Survival Guide. I'm glad you found it. This guide was created to help those of you that do direct service work and for folks that support people in direct service work. So whether you are a caretaker or someone that manages caretakers, I'm thrilled that you're here. Thank you for doing the work that you do, and I hope this guide helps you find ways to make that work more enjoyable for you, help you do what you do longer and better and in a more fulfilling way. So here's how the guide is set up. We have three major zones. The first one is the fatigue zone. This is all about identifying what stresses you out, how you respond when you're stressed out, how to recognize the signs of becoming fatigued and head those things off, stop them in their tracks. The second zone is the recovery zone, which is about identifying and learning techniques for getting yourself back to a good, stable, and balanced place so you can move forward in a healthy and happy way. And the third zone is the resilience zone. How do we come back to day-to-day situations or ongoing situations that can cause us stress and cause us to burn out? How do we come back at those things in a way that is more powerful, more present, and more sustainable? So let's look at the fatigue zone in a little bit more detail. Again, we know we're in that zone when we start feeling overloaded, feeling drained, feeling reacted, feeling disconnected, feeling numb, any emotion that's telling us that we're feeling too much or we've got too much strain or something's wearing us down. In the guidebook, you have a couple of tools to help you get more clarity on this. One of those is the stress satisfaction scale. Great little quiz. It just helps you identify what's the level of stress or even positivity that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Gives you a good handle on just how much you may be carrying. So often when folks have compassion fatigue or are heading in that direction, they will dismiss it. They will say, I shouldn't be that tired or I shouldn't feel that bad. And they don't give themselves credit for how much they're really carrying. So this is a great tool to help you understand where you're currently at and be honest about what you need. Another great tool for identifying what may be issues worth looking at is the trauma exposure proximity matrix. It's a big fancy name. Basically what it means is how close to other people's difficulties and suffering are you? And direct care folks, they're right there in front of it. It makes sense. But sometimes folks are one or two or even three layers removed from that, and they still feel some emotional burden from that. The challenge is quite often they will second guess themselves or explain it away. They'll tell themselves, I shouldn't be so upset. I don't have to deal with the same things that these other folks are dealing with. And that's just not really being fair to yourself. A lot of folks are picking up little bits of stress from several other people, and that still accumulates over time and it can still wear people down. So if you are a direct caretaker, this is a great thing to understand. But even more so if you're a supervisor or a manager or a leader of any kind, if you are supporting and working with people who are direct care folks, you are also probably carrying a certain amount of emotional burden from that. And it's good to identify it, how it shows up, and know how to take care of yourself so you can take care of those people doing the direct work. Better idea where the stress comes from, let's talk a little bit about your brain and how this pans out literally biologically. We're going to talk briefly about something called the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for evaluating every situation 24 hours a day and deciding, is this something that's good for me, it's an opportunity, or is this something that's bad for me and is a threat? Its job is to always scan the horizon and look for what might be a risk. The challenge is the more stress that we are under, the more biased the anterior cingulate cortex becomes, and it starts looking for dangers and threats and stress. And will sometimes even start evaluating things as threats when really they're just neutral. To help make this process a little bit more memorable, we're going to call the anterior cingulate cortex the inner watchdog. And for fun, we've nicknamed him Barkley because people can understand us a little bit better. It's a little bit easier to remember in the heat of the moment. Barkley's job, whenever something doesn't look right or doesn't feel safe, is to look for the threat and might say, I'm threatened by this situation, by this traffic, or by this weather, or by this situation, or this case, or this paperwork. This is bad, and it's going to make a problem for me. Or it might say that you, this other person, you are a threat. This boss, this coworker, this patient, this person at the checkout stand is what's causing my stress. They are the threat. Sometimes we take it out on ourselves. We tell ourselves, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not fast enough, or I'm not good enough to handle what's in front of me. I'm the threat. I'm the reason I'm not safe right now. Any of those stories will cause us to escalate that emotional intensity and cause our brain to start looking for ways to survive that situation. So here's the real danger of this situation. When we are surrounded by stress or pressure or just caring so much about what other people are going through that we burn the candle at both ends, our nervous system can get locked into something called hyperarousal. This is where the vagus nerve and the rest of the nervous system are on high alert so constantly that it starts to damage that nervous system and keeps it trapped in that state of looking for what's wrong. And again, finding it sometimes even when it's not there, or expanding on it when it is there. And when we talk about compassion fatigue is when the nervous system has been locked in that mode for so long that it literally begins to shut down. It runs out of energy and the ability to deal with situations, and will just metaphorically curl up in a ball, sometimes physically curl up in a ball, and just go into protection mode and go into hibernation mode. This is a very dangerous zone to be in, and we want to head this off as early as we possibly can. Once our nervous system has been triggered and sees a threat, then the basal ganglia part of our brain steps into the equation. This is the part of the brain that learns patterns for dealing with dangerous situations. Some of these patterns are learned at a very young age, and therefore they are not terribly well informed. And they also operate from a part of our brain that does not have language skills, and therefore it can just create strong feelings and automatic responses that we might not even be able to explain or give words to. Let's talk a little bit more about how those show up and what they do. There are several Eastern philosophies that talk about something known as the monkey mind. This is the part of our brain that chatters and chatters, responds to things, gets spun up by situation, and a lot of meditation and mindfulness and therapy is all about quieting down what we call that monkey chatter. And we're going to use that metaphor of the monkey to describe these different patterns that our brain offers us when it feels that it's being threatened. So the basal ganglia, its legitimate purpose is to give us patterns and strategies for surviving situations when they're stressful. We're going to call this part of the brain Max, or Maxine if you prefer. We want to be fair. And this part of the brain says, I need to do something about the situation or else. It's the or else that gets us in trouble, because this part of the brain is convinced that if we don't follow some kind of extreme pattern right now, we're going to be damaged a lot, and we have to do something immediately. It uses automatic patterns. These things run fast and unconsciously, but ultimately they're trying to protect you. They're not necessarily good at it, but they're trying to protect you from what it perceives as an immediate threat to our health and well-being. If you have a moment, go click on this link, the atlantachallenge.com/max, or you can scan the QR code. This will take you to a quick and reasonably fun little survey that'll help you identify which of these monkey patterns shows up for you and what it says to you when you're stressed to make you think that that's a good idea. After you finish the assessment, you'll get a report showing you how strong each of these monkeys is and which ones are the loudest for you when you're in a stressful mindset. The purpose here is not to call you out. It's not to make you wrong. Everyone has all these patterns. All we're looking for is which ones are strongest for you. That way you can identify them, get to know them, and most importantly, recognize them when they are running around your brain, stirring up trouble. This way you can help talk them back and get yourself back into control a little bit faster, a little bit more calmly, and get back to what's important to you. Along with the assessment will come some background information on the watchdog and each of the monkeys. Take some time and read this. Get to know the messages, the words, the tones that your monkeys use, because again, that helps you identify them when they are playing out in real time and will help you differentiate between a good idea and a stress-informed idea. And the trick is the stress-informed idea will probably work in the short term, but long term, it always gives you the opposite of what you want and adds to that stress load, which pushes us closer and closer to that fatigue line, which we want to be very sure to avoid. Okay, now that we have talked about what causes the stress and how it shows up, let's talk about how to get back to a good place. Let's step into the recovery zone. The recovery zone is all about how do we reset our nervous system This is resetting literally our body, our heart rate, and our nerves to get back into a more even tempo, but also our thinking. How do we relabel events and relabel situations so that we can look at them without getting re-triggered or re-frustrated by those very things? This is an incredibly important step. Doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it's an incredibly important step in between recognizing that we're stressed and what we're going to do in response to that stress. And one of the most important things about resetting is knowing the difference between when we should take a break and when we often do take a break. It's important that we notice when we're drifting into that stress direction and do a reset then, rather than waiting until we're fully angry or upset or shut down by an experience. We want to take care of ourselves early and often so that we have more resilience going forward. In your survival guide, you'll find several pages of different tools and tips and tricks for helping you turn around a negative situation or turn around a stressful mindset or just calm yourself before you head into something that's high stakes. Several pages on this. I highly encourage you to read through this section, and you don't have to do all of these things every day. Just understand what they are, what ones are available to you, and take a few minutes. Pick out the ones that are your go-to ones that work best for you. Different people respond to different techniques in different ways. So go ahead and dog-ear those pages so that when you've got a rough moment, you can flip right open to that page in the book and take care of yourself. At last, we're at that third zone, the resilience zone. Once we've identified that we're triggered and see what stress patterns are coming out of us, we've taken a few minutes to take a beat, get ourselves reset and calm, cool, and collected in a good place. Now we can go forward and find a solution to the situation that we're dealing with that allows us to stay calm and stay clear and be connected, something that allows us to maintain a sense of purposefulness and be fulfilled in what we do rather than just surviving what we do. This is all about building that resilience, the ability to stand in the middle of chaos, in the middle of stress, in the middle of difficult situations, but not feel stressed and chaotic. It's about knowing that we can handle the situation, maybe even welcoming the situation and being glad that we are there to take care of it and make things happen in a better way. So I want to make sure that you don't skip ahead to this part of the guide before doing the first two sections. Make sure you take the time to get to know how your inner watchdog reacts. Look at how your inner monkeys respond to stressful situations. Make sure you identify those key reset steps and tools that help you get back to a good, healthy place. And then you can look at how to respond to a situation in a healthy way. So in your guidebook, you have several options to pick from. And these were designed to give you all three steps specifically tailored to certain situations, like dealing with an angry person or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like you can never get caught up, or maybe you're reaching the part where you're starting to go numb. You can flip right to that page. There's a 2-page spread on each one that will help you work through it. So in your guidebook, there are several of these individual scenarios that you can use step by step for dealing with a difficult situation. On the left-hand page, it's all about Barkley and Max. What kind of messages are they giving you? What kind of advice and suggestions are they saying you should use in that moment? And this is there so you can recognize those things and say, wait, this is a survival pattern. This is not how I want to respond to the situation. Then you pop over to page 2 and you have the reset tips, which give you ways for getting grounded and rethinking the situation so that you can see it in a healthy and sustainable way. And then we can move to that third step of how to respond. What are things that we can do to come back to this situation in a way that allows us to have a positive and healthy and sustainable impact? Near the end of the guide, you have a list of different free assessments that you can take. The stress profile, that is the one that will help you understand Max and which patterns show up for that. There's also a thinking style snapshot. We can make a lot of great changes in our life by understanding how our brain likes to think. Are we more left brain, right brain, things like that? And how do we craft our world to match our thinking style better, which helps us reduce a lot of stress. There's the Barkley Mood Barometer. This is something that's just good to do every once in a while, every week or so. gives you just kind of a good understanding of where your current stress load is at. How much are you carrying right now? And you want to keep that score as low as possible. So it's good to go back in and check it frequently. If you are a team leader, there's the situational leadership assessment. This gives you a good understanding of where your team is at in the forming, storming, norming, and performing levels. And by better understanding where your team is at environmentally, it can help you understand where the stress load is and navigate situations and environment for your team so they can perform better. And similar to that, there's the teamwork compass. This gives you kind of an understanding of how well your team is performing in different key categories of teamwork. And again, helps you head off issues, helps you shore up the foundation for your team to help take some of the internal stress off your team so they can focus their energies and emotions on what's happening outside the team. And as always, if you need any help with any of that or have questions about some of the programs we have to support folks in those areas, by all means, give us a call. So we talked about those first 3 steps. How do we recognize the fatigue zone? How do we step into the recovery zone? And then how do we optimize that resilience zone? But there's one foundational thing that underlies all of these, and that's that fatigue and fulfillment are built by our habits. We either feel good frequently or feel bad frequently based on our day-to-day habits, and that will dictate to what extent we are able to withstand the things that happen to us. So to do that, just a few simple steps. Evaluate your stress exposure, like we talked about in step 1. Also identify your stress response monkeys. Then develop your own mental fitness routine. What are a few things you can do each day for a few minutes to help you maintain and build that muscle? And then review the event responses that apply to you. There's a lot of different scenarios in there. Look through them and find the 2 or 3 that happen in your world the most so you can practice them. And then when they happen again, you're ready for them and they have less impact on you. And please, please, please share this with a friend. If there's other humans in your house, have them take the monkey assessment. It's very helpful to know what the monkeys are for the people that are closest to you. And if you have coworkers who are feeling that burn of the fatigue, by all means, share this link with them. They can download a copy of the book here and they can watch this video and get whatever resources can help them out. So there it is. That's the quick overview of the Compassion Fatigue Survival Guide. Please take some time to go through the workbook, do the exercises. You don't have to do all of it at once, and you don't have to do all of these things every day, but just that steady drip of taking care of yourself and being conscious of how these factors are playing out in your brain will make a tremendous difference in how you experience your work. So thank you for taking the time to dig into the book, and more importantly, thank you for doing the great work that you do. And I hope that you find this tutorial and the guidebook helpful, and shoot us a note. Let us know how this has helped you. We would love to hear your stories. You guys take care.